All right. Well, welcome back to a resting Pitchface.
We are not live yet.
This way and we always edit it out. We're not live yet.
We are not live yet. All right. So it has us starting streaming less than 1 minute ago. So
are we actually live? I think we're live.
I think we're live. So this is the way all of our podcasts always started, if you've never known that before, and we just edit it out. But this is a special reunion episode of Resting Pitchface. I'm Kay.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Sid, writing as KD Casey. And if folks are watching us or out there, can you give a holler of life? Because we don't know what we are seeing, because per Resting Pitchface tradition, we had technical difficulties up until the last second before doing it.
Okay, Jen says we're live. Jen says we're live.
All right, Jen, can you see us? Jen, if you're out there, send a sign.
They're texting. We're live.
Okay, we're live and we can be seen and everything. All right, I'm Sid, writing as KD Casey, and I might have had a book come out today, and I was like, how can I celebrate my book birthday for a book that has been a year and blah, blah, blah in the process? And I was like, I want to get my favorite people in the world together and talk a little bit about it and talk a little baseball and just kind of like have a little like, you know, get the band back together. Like when sort of like the I don't know, it feels like a classic movie thing where like the old musicians kind of all get together and they start like a jam session. I was kind of like envisioning that for us.
Are we doing like a behind the music? Are we doing like a pop-up video? Like, is that what you're saying?
Only if we explain to Laura what pop-up video was.
Hey, it's only 8:01 and we're already making age jokes. That's not fair.
You are actually, so I am older than every national at this point.
Oh God.
So,
that's a you problem. That's not my fault.
Thank goodness for Adam Wainwright being an aged man, because like otherwise I would feel just decrepit. But I thought, you know, we could get together, talk a little bit about the book, talk a little bit about, you know, some baseball stuff, because we're inevitably gonna go to talk about baseball. I'm sure we'll spend a minute or two on Tyler Clippard. If anyone wants to pull his baseball reference page up for just good times, like see how the bullpen in Arizona was. It was bad. But I think that, you know, we'll just kind of go from there. And if folks are kind of out there and joining us, hi, please feel free to say hi in the chat. I see that Jen is actively saying hello, which I appreciate. And yeah, why don't we just kind of rock and roll. And while we are doing that, if anyone wants to pop a quick link on to the stream on Twitter, that might be good.
I retweeted whatever was from before. Is that still the correct?
Yeah, it should be.
Great.
So, but yeah, so we can just kind of rock and roll and talk a little book and talk a little baseball and, you know, answer all of Jen's burning questions.
So why don't we start, just in case there are people here who didn't come from your links, Sydney, do you want to sort of talk about, kind of give us the blurb of the book for anybody who hasn't been following the saga before we start talking about the book?
Sure. So the blurb for the book. So the book is called Unwritten Rules. The working title was Pitch Framing and Other Lies, which my agent kindly told me was not the most accessible of book titles.
I still loved it. I still love it.
It's really good.
And the book is a queer Jewish baseball romance novel that is, I would say, has a high heat level, and we can get into like what that means for like romance novel terminology later. And it is about a catcher named Zach Glasser, who, when the book is in two timelines. So one timeline is 3 years in the past when he is on the team called the Oakland Elephants. And then in the other timeline, it is 3 years in the future when he is on the team called the Miami Swordfish. And the book opens with him going to his first All-Star Classic game. So he is selected to play in the All-Star Classic as a Swordfish player, and he shows up at the All-Star Classic in Cincinnati, gets into the clubhouse and sits down and doesn't really look at who he's sitting next to. And then boom, who is in fact in the seat next to him, his ex-teammate, Eugenio Morales, who is also his ex-boyfriend. And so the book is about what happens when they reunite, but also kind of follows their initial like get together. And then, and this is not spoilers because you know it from like page 2, and their subsequent breakup and then reunion. It is a romance, so it does have a happily ever after. So spoilers, they do end up together at the end of the book, but a bunch of other stuff happens as well. So that is sort of the very condensed version of it. And there's a lot of other, I would say, baseball stuff. There's some spicy stuff. It has, I would say, plot. Laura has read the book approximately 400 times, so she can like disagree about the plot.
There's plot. There's definitely plot. The one thing I wanna just get this out on the air definitively though. There's one other thing that the book has besides plot, and I want to get this on the record because Sid has asked me this more times than anything else through this entire process. And so, yes, I have read the book 400,000 times, but I've also been asked this one question 1,500,000 times. And so I just want to get it out for the record. Sydney, yes, they have chemistry.
So yeah, so let's tell the story maybe a little bit of how the book got started. So Laura, without kind of getting too much into personal life, you were like super busy at work stuff, and you were like, hey, tell me a story. And I was like, I can tell you a story. And so this started in like a G chat when I was like, yeah, let me just like start, I don't know, like spitball in here in G chat. And I actually have a screen cap of the G chat saved. And it's hard to read. The font is very small, but it was just like, yeah, so they show up. Zach shows up at the All-Star Classic and meets Eugenio, except Zach and Eugenio at this point don't have names, so it literally just has like little brackets that say names. And then we got to a point in the conversation where I'm like, I really need to have names for them, but I kind of like this. I'll be interested to see where it goes.
Weren't there 3 words? I feel like I remember there being 3 words.
I believe one was 4-seamer. I remember because you gave me 3 words as prompts, right?
I know one of them was a pitch. It was 4-seamer and hips.
I think so.
And I don't remember the third one. Do you remember the third one?
I feel like thickness might have been in there, lower half thickness. Like we gotta hit the classics. The day I found out that was a technical scouting term, I lay on my living room floor laughing. So yeah, I was like, wow, that's a technical term, sure. But so as part of this this writing process, part of it was me being like, Laura, do they have chemistry? And you being like, yes. And I'd be like, but do they have chemistry? And you're like, so I'd like to think that they have chemistry. I think that is your mileage may vary kind of thing. I don't know. It's like obscenity. You know it when you see it. But I think that Zach and Eugenio have some good chemistry. And they kind of start out like slightly not rivals, but they're competing for the same roster spot. So there's like some tension and some slight friction between them about that, which lends itself to some nice chemistry.
Yeah, chemistry. Well, so it was obviously really, really fun to kind of follow along in real time. Not everybody gets to have like a little bedtime story from their friend's eventual published novel over the course of about a year. So I know I could talk about a lot of stuff that I absolutely love about the book. But Sid, either from like a baseball perspective or just in general, what's something in particular that made it into the book that you're really proud of?
Ooh, that is a good question. So there's a scene, so I would say it's a baseball forward baseball romance. I have the hypothesis that baseball people like baseball in their fiction quite a lot. And then I have heard lots of baseball people say over the years, and this is including romance readers and, you know, and that they really like having the sport in books. And that it lends itself really well to, I think, like narrative, mostly because like the simultaneity of action in like hockey and basketball, it just like makes it harder to write. Like if I think about trying to write like a basketball game, I'm like, I don't know how to do that because like everything's happening all at once. But obviously baseball being a little bit more sequential is helpful. So there's a scene later in the book where Zach has been like gone through some stuff and he's with us. I don't want to spoil anything, but he's like hitting in a game. His family is there. It's sort of a big moment. And he goes up to take an at bat, and because I'm me and I have to be who I am, there's a like slight discussion of like commit points. So like, what does a commit point mean in hitting? But I try to like kind of get some of the like metaphorical aspects of like, so if you're not a giant nerd, the way I am, commit point is essentially that when a pitcher throws a pitch, there's a point in the pitch's trajectory where the hitter has to decide to swing or not. And they often do so without knowing like what kind of pitch it is or where the location's going to end up or whatever. And it's sort of like this metaphor for like taking a risk in a leap into the unknown. And I think that part of it is like just kind of getting into the metaphors that the game has to offer. I really kind of dug. There's also a lot of kissing. I'm just going to be clear. Like this sounds like it's a lot of baseball, but Lara, you would testify it's a lot. There's some mouth.
There's a fair amount of kissing. At one point I may have asked, is this a kissing book? But yes, it is a kissing book. It's also a baseball book, which like honestly, I think most of our listeners would agree that is the very best combination. Like all I've ever really wanted in life is a queer Jewish baseball romance novel. And I feel like that is perhaps the niche that a lot of our friends and listeners also belong to. So yes, it is very baseball forward. It is also very kissing forward. And I know I really appreciated a lot of the Jewish elements. I don't think that you need to be Jewish to appreciate them whatsoever, but I think it's really nice to have that kind of reflection in fiction, and we don't get it that much. What made you decide to have, was there a decision? Actually, I don't remember. Was there a decision or did it just kind of happen in terms of making Zach be a Jewish main character?
So two things that you just said that I want to kind of hit on. So one, you're like, this book is for me. I was like, I wanted to write a book for like us. I don't know. Like, I was like, I know a lot of like queer baseball Jews. And I wasn't like predicting when I was, I don't know, you're 17 and like dreaming of adulthood. And you're like, well, I know a lot of queer baseball Jews. And I'm like, no, I can see sort of where that trajectory ends up. But I wanted to write that of like, who is the audience for this? I'm like, the audience is like people I know and people who like overlap only with two of those three things or one of those three things as well. But, for the Jewish stuff, that's actually, Lara, you're kind of responsible for that because you know how I hate naming characters?
I seem to recall something about that, yes.
I hate it. I'm very bad at it. I'm just like, I don't know, John. And then an editor would be like, they can't all be named John. You got three of them. That was an actual edit that got made. But you gave me a list of names. And two of those names were Zach and Eugenio. But like the other names on there were like, I don't know, Cal. There's not a lot of art people named Cal. Just gonna throw that out there. Like maybe, but not before Ellis Island anyway. But like, so when I was like, all right, Zach, I want his last name to be Glasser. Okay, now I know a huge amount about him as a person. Just because, and if you're not aware, if you're not Ashkenazi Jewish, like that's a super Ashkenazi Jewish name.
But I remember you saying you wanted it to be something that would be Ashkenazi Jewish to Ashkenazi Jews, but not necessarily jump off the page to someone who's not.
Yeah. So I think that like, I wanted to have like that cultural signifier of if you are Jewish and Ashkenazi Jewish, Zach Glasser is like, all right, that is a Jewish ass name. I was like, can we swear on the podcast? But like, if you're not, and it's even kind of commented on in the book that like at one point he and Eugenio are eating dinner together, and Eugenio is a cook and he likes to cook, and he has served pork, and like Zach kind of offhandedly mentions, oh yeah, I'm Jewish, and Eugenio was like, oops. And he's like, no, like I ate pork, it's fine. But he kind of gets into like, I have one of those names that if you're not super Jewish, you wouldn't know that I'm Jewish, but if you are, it reads very Jewish. And I wanted that a little bit in contrast to, obviously, if you have a character named, Eugenio Morales, that's going to generally read as immediately evident that that character is Latino. And so I wanted sort of to have a contrast between like Zach can kind of conceal in a lot of ways parts of his identity, and Eugenio doesn't have that as that kind of privilege, that his parents have given him a name that really says like, this is who I am, even though he is from Indiana. So like has a Midwestern accent, because that's the sexiest of the accents. I wrote a character from Dundalk the other day, and I was like, please note, they do not have a Dundalk accent.
I'm not even sure I know where that is.
Near Baltimore. No, you didn't listen to Mary Prankster, Blue Skies Over Dundalk growing up? This is like super DMV childhood. No, I know you're from not DC.
We're failing you.
Dundalk's near Baltimore. It's a super blue collar area near Baltimore, but like has a very distinct accent. And I just had to be like, this character probably doesn't sound like that. Just no. If anyone on here has a Dundalk accent, no shame. There's nothing wrong with it. But in the world of sexy accents, it's, I think, personally on the lower part.
Before this becomes a ranking of sexy accents. So that's something you really liked getting into the book. Is there something that you really wanted to get in there that you couldn't, besides apparently naming everyone John?
Yeah, so the book is like 105,000 words, so it's a lot. I think some of the feedback I've gotten is like, it's a complete book, like it has a beginning, middle, and end story, but I really love to like kind of continue their story together, and in writing sort of stuff in the subsequent universe, because it turned into like a literary universe, kind of like having them show up in other stories is really fun. And because it is single point of view, because it's all from Zach's point of view, you never really get an outside point of view of Zach. And so writing him from other people's perspectives is actually really, really fun. Because, sort of you have your characters' perceptions of themselves, but then you have other characters' perceptions of them. And with single point of view, you don't have that. So more books.
2, 3, and 4 then, isn't it?
Maybe.
No pressure.
I will hint at that I have something coming out soon-ish in terms of news that people should keep an eye out for, in which Zach might show up. That's what I will say.
So I guess follow your Twitter for the news.
Short story wise, are people still able to get a copy of any of your other writing if they sign up for your newsletter? Where are we at with that? Because there's some fun stuff that I know people have been able to get access to.
Yeah, so I do have a newsletter. We can put it in I think the description for this. So if you sign up for the newsletter, you do get a free 8,000-ish word short story. It is set in a fictional Baltimore Oysters baseball team. Go O's. I came up with a whole league. Like, I came up with fake names for a whole league, and I had a lot of fun doing it. But if you sign up, you get that. And that is about a pitcher who gives up home runs. And he's sort of like an older starter, long reliever, journeyman type. And he gives up home runs, and a catcher who is a rookie catcher. But because it's baseball, they're about the same age, or possibly the rookie's a little bit older. And who just like continually hits home runs off of him. And it's kind of like a story of like when the pitcher basically says something sassy about him in the media, like what happens as a result of that. But I think it's fun. And if you sign up for my newsletter, you get that. And I have some other exciting, cool projects that, again, I cannot formally announce yet. But if you sign up for the newsletter, you'll hear about them in the next couple of days and will be at least temporarily free.
I know I'm biased, but there's really no downside to signing up for the newsletter. And the story is super, 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 super freaking cute. So you should read it.
I think it's pretty cute. And you know, it's also set in Baltimore. So what's not to love?
I feel like a lot of places that you have connections to have popped up in different spots. Is that conscious, or is it just sort of like a write what you know, like anybody would kind of include places they're familiar with?
So this Unwritten Rules takes place in Oakland, Miami, Maryland, and New York, and Ohio. Because I decided to be like, I really love getting on Google Maps and looking at restaurants, because all of the restaurants in the book are real, because I am that kind of stickler. The place I end up setting stuff the most is, bizarrely, Miami. And it's because I really like Miami. Like, I wish it were deeper, but it's like, I like Miami. I always have a good time when I'm in Miami. I think I told this story yesterday. I once got offered like free vodka in an airport concourse in Miami. And I'm like, that's the vibe. Like that's the vibe of the city, of just like, you're here. Would you like some free vodka? And I'm like, I no, but thank you. Like, but yeah, so a lot of my stuff takes place in Miami, but also in suburban Maryland, because that is where I'm physically located right at this second. I wrote something that took place in Tampa the other day. And we were like, if I was like, if I can make Tampa sexy, I can make anywhere sexy. Again, no shade to Tampa. I made it sexy.
So I guess then if you do want to continue on in this, what other places would you want to? Because if it's your playground and you've created the whole league, what is the most interesting part of this league that you have yet to sort of dig into? A place that maybe you haven't been that you're like, but that's really interesting.
So my favorite team names that were come up with, I will say, maybe this is sort of a sidestep answer. So I got help in coming up with some of the team names. My favorite team names that we came up with, I'm going to say we, because this was a group effort, were the Houston team is never named in the books, but they are the Houston Problems. And so I have another kind of book drafted that takes place in part in Houston, and gets into sticky stuff and ball doctoring.
For when I'm shocked. Deeply shocked.
Literally, like, I mean that pitch doctoring was like caveat, like, and everyone's like, oh yeah, sticky stuff. I'm like, no, it also talks about sunscreen and rosin and pine tar, but also the other stuff. So that's probably like one of my favorite things to kind of mine is kind of those big controversies. So I think if, you know, sort of what do I want to do next? And the other favorite one is intrepid listener Justin from Canada. I asked him to have the honor of naming the Canadian team. And his name for the Canadian team was the Toronto Jacks, because a gray jack is another name for a gray jay, and like jay, like the bird in Canada, and jacks means home runs.
I knew it was only a matter of time when we were talking about team names before intrepid Justin from Canada was going to make a cameo appearance. So hello, Justin from Canada, wherever you are currently. I assume Canada. Hello. It's nice to hear from you.
But yeah, that was just like, I was like, you're very good at this. And I'm like, this is a very specific, like, a set of skills.
He has named every car I've ever owned after a baseball player.
Really?
Yes.
What's the current one?
Well, so I won't share the current one. I'm going to share my favorite one. Okay. My car that ultimately died a hero in a pothole after mostly being made of rust, but like really, really getting me everywhere in a very valiant way. That was UNSS Prius. That was a great car. I miss that car.
Did it die in a ditch?
It hit a pothole.
Did it actually?
It really did. That was the end.
Did it twist its ankle on a horse ranch?
It kind of did. It kind of did. There was a pretty significant flat tire that happened. One could say it was a twisted ankle on a horse ranch, but it gave its all. It left it all on the road. It was a good car.
It didn't just tell the Mets to go kick rocks and then leave.
It did not.
To be fair, I'm pro his Cespedes' decision to do that.
Yeah, I mean that might have been its way of telling me, please stop driving me in New England without going to the car wash a single time in your life. Which, you know, I don't actually recommend for the care and maintenance of your car. It turns out that's how you get rust. But yeah, in my defense, most of it was already there.
I feel like Johanna Cesprius is just, that's amazing.
So it's a great name for a car. So, you know, shout out to Justin from Canada.
Thank you, Justin from Canada, for naming. We did get somebody in the chat. So Chelsea said that her favorite was fake team name is the Detroit Muscle, which I named for both, obviously muscle, not that I have any, but and like muscle cars, but specifically from the first Fast and the Furious movie, when Dominic Toretto is like, yeah, it's like blah, blah, blah horsepower of Detroit muscle. And I'm like, that's the one. I like those movies before they were cool. I want to say, like, before they became just like giant cartoons, I was a big fan. So I was like, let me do that, because this book is also about family. So like, it's thematic.
What did you name Boston? I'm trying to remember.
The Monsters.
Oh, that's right. No, the Monsters. No,
the Monsters. No,
we don't have ours here.
The Monsters.
There we go.
But yeah, I mean, there's some pretty good names. I got some really good suggestions. The one that people really cracked up at were the Anaheim Californians of Anaheim, California. I was like, well, what are we gonna name them? Let me look at their past team name. Oh no, yes.
I love that. I forgot that's what you settled on. I love that.
So this kind of segues in. Laura, can you hold up the stickers? So as part of book stuff, I commissioned these little stickers for the Oakland Elephants team, which is Zach and Eugenio's team at the beginning of the book. And a sticker artist named Sarah Weiner made these, and I can put the link down below. But I think they came out really, really cute. And I kind of want Oakland actually to have pink alternates now.
If I say something, will it make it big so people can see the sticker better?
Yes.
I don't know if that worked, but It's a very cute sticker.
It's very cute.
I have to decide where to put it. I have to decide what's worthy of it.
But yeah, so those the Oakland Elephants, and I kind of want like a hat and a jersey, and I actually have an Oakland, like a green shirt that says "Unionize the Miners," but I realized right before this stream I spilled something on it.
Are you perhaps wearing a different Unionize the Miners shirt? Is that a thing you might be doing right now? Do you own more than one, Sydney? 3.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Very nice.
so this is let me just show the world this is from Tipping Pitches, the podcast. So they have these 3 shirts, the Unionize the Miners shirts, because in addition to baseball and spicy baseball, you also get a little taste of like some labor relations as a treat.
In your book, you included seizing the means of run production in your book about baseball.
You know, it was going to be a really pro-owner book, but the editor was like, maybe we should question the, I don't know, ethics in fake baseballery. And I was like, that's a good point.
It's got a little something for the political baseball fan who's not into kissing at all, but is into politics and baseball. There's a little something extra.
I do think if you go into this book not being into kissing, you will finish this book feeling differently about kissing because it's very good kissing. I'm just saying.
I am having some like conversations with like folks who are baseball folks for this, and I always lead with, so have you ever read a romance novel before? And the answer is no. Is this what they're like? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, oh.
I think yours is a little more accurate than most romance novels.
About baseball? Go out on a limb there.
Yes.
There are some really good romance. Actually, that's a good segue. So there is a book called Reading the Signs by an author named Kira Andrews that explains catcher sign encoding. No offense to the Washington Post's Jesse Doherty, but better than he did following the Nats World Series in Houston. I've actually told Jesse this, so I don't feel bad saying it. But it actually gets into how do catchers encode signs so that runners on base can't figure out what they're about to throw. And I was like, this is the best and most accurate portrayal of this I've ever read. And I'm like, see, I learned something.
Yeah.
There's also a little scene in a hotel room that I would say is like the heat level is kind of like I would go with like a Kopeck fastball. Like it's pretty steamy, it's pretty spicy.
That could be the new rating category.
Yeah, I was joking around on Twitter that I was gonna start rating my books by a metric called nasty factor, which is actually an old defunct pitching metric.
So now we've got everything on brand here. We've got pitching stats, we've got unionizing the minors, we've got Judaism, we've got queerness, we've got places Sid has visited and liked.
Food. There's a lot of food in the book. There's also
how many of the things in the book that are described as being cooked have you made personally or eaten, been fed?
Ooh, so there's a whole sequence where Eugenio makes a tarte tatin, and I've never made one.
I've been thinking about making one for the last year.
And I feel like a liar because I was like, oh no, that involves like super hot sugar syrup. I will die. As somebody who can categorically not follow directions.
You'll just get some third-degree burns. You'll be fine. You won't die.
So I haven't made that. I have made a babka because there's an emotionally significant babka in the book. I had some of that for breakfast. I did like a little babka unboxing video this morning that I'll put up on Instagram of me like half awake, like struggling to get a babka out of a bag. But I did make a babka with my mom, who was not allowed to read the book because of the spiciness. And I was like, but there's like an emotionally significant babka. So can we make a babka? And she's just like, I don't know what that means. Sure.
Have you made the pork thing?
No, that sounds super gross.
Yeah, I thought so too, but I didn't want to say so.
No, you said it. Like,
did I? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Eugenio makes this like pork chop equivalent with, but like with like a Cuban sandwich ingredients inside.
Yeah, there's like
a pork
stuff
chop.
layered inside of pork. I'm sorry, it sounds really nasty, but I don't eat meat, so like I don't like to assume that these things sound nasty to other people. But I'm relieved. Thank you for that.
I wanted to find a recipe that was like not super complicated, so that he could be like good at cooking for a professional baseball player, but not improbably good at cooking. And I was like, I feel like a Bobby Flay grilling recipe is a good one, but no, I have not made that.
I think it probably sounds good if you eat meat.
I like Cuban sandwiches a lot. This is like a Cuban sandwich where the pork chop is like butterflied and you put all the stuff. If anyone has made this, let me know. Maybe I'm impugning it.
I mean, I've never had this, and I hate Bobby Flay, but stuffed pork chops are good. I mean, have you ever had a stuffed pork chop just in like general stuff with mushroom? I mean, no, Laura, I know you haven't, obviously, but stuffed with mushrooms or stuffed with seafood.
I ate meat for like the first 16 years of my life, to be clear, but I never tried a stuffed pork chop when I ate meat.
I feel like I have
well
stuffed.
I
have stuffed a pork chop, but not with like Swiss cheese and ham and pickles and mustard. Like, yeah. The last thing that gets cooked is basically like a Venezuelan dish that Eugenio makes because his family's from Venezuela. And I have not made that, but there's actually a pretty decent sized Venezuelan community in suburban Maryland where I live. So I have ordered that a lot and felt very comfortable with that as a decision because it was delicious. But yes, the only thing of the food mentioned in the book that I have actually made is that babka, and it is emotionally significant and also has a tablespoon and a half of butter per slice.
As God and nature intended.
Yeah.
So it's delicious. I can link it at some point. I did put together like a how to make a babka pictorial guide. But then we realized we made the babka wrong. So a friend had to like send pictures of it to her. I mean, like it tastes fine. Like this is not wrong. There's not really a wrong way to do it. But I was like, no, if we cut it like, it's because you're supposed to cut it like you roll it into a log and then you cut it vertically. And then we just cut it horizontally instead. And so instead of getting all of those sort of classic layers and stuff, we were just like, that doesn't look right somehow, but we're not really sure how.
I learned this from Bake Off, and I feel like there is something fundamentally wrong with learning how to bake a Jewish thing from Paul Hollywood. But I'm going to be honest, no one in my family has ever made a babka. It's like not in our personal repertoire. I've eaten a lot of it, but it's not one of the things that like my grandma had a recipe for, to my knowledge.
By the way, the chat is in support of stuffed pork chops, so we have that.
All right.
Reflected.
Okay.
I will have to try it. I feel like those were my food confessions. Every time I've talked about the babka, someone has mentioned the Great British Bake Off babka episode as being like something that we need to have like retribution for.
I mean, there's like other Jewish foods that I am like bitter towards Paul Hollywood for. There are several. Challah is a big one.
You mean the traditional Passover food?
Yes, that one. The one that we eat on Passover. The leavened bread that we eat on Passover.
I'm glad I've never seen this particular episode.
He definitely said that challah was a traditional Passover food. I feel like there was the rainbow bagels.
Oh God, those were a travesty. I
am of the opinion that like blueberry bagels are a little bit too far for me. So like rainbow bagel. Mm-hmm.
I don't like blueberry bagels personally.
If you can't put lox on it, I don't understand the point.
I don't like lox.
People do put lox and onions on blueberry bagels, and I need to run screaming from the room because that shit's nasty.
Again, if we're impugning anyone's bagel order, we're sorry, but the rainbow bagel episode, it was in particular pretty bad.
If your bagel order involves a blueberry bagel and lox, I'm not sorry that we're impugning it because that sounds terrible.
I feel I feel the same way towards blueberry bagels, the way that my grandfather felt towards so my grandfather was involved with stuff at the synagogue, including the baby namings and the brisses. But then was invited not to be involved in that after they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna, and this is in 1955. They're like, we're naming the baby Lance. And he just looks at him and he's like, what kind of name is Lance? They were like, gently, the times are changing. And I feel about a blueberry bagel the way that I feel about my grandfather felt about children named Lance. It's what kind of bagel is this?
So then that implies at some point there's going to be the bagel equivalent of spelling Caitlin with 5 I's and no L's. That's
the rainbow bagel, yes. That's a strawberry bagel. That is.
Okay, all right. I feel like we need to move on from gross bagel flavors.
We can talk about the Washington Nationals.
No, I'm good.
Who are also a gross bagel flavor this year.
I will say, okay, so one brief baseball foray here, and then I think we should wrap up. I'm not gonna lie. So I haven't watched a ton of baseball this season. The trade deadline happened. I went into work the next morning, and one of my work friends who's also a baseball fan comes up to me and he's like, so Max got traded. And I'm like, I'm not ready to talk about that. And then a couple minutes later, he comes over and he's like, so, what do you think with the Dodgers? I'm like, no, really. I meant that I'm not ready to talk about that. I think you thought that I was joking, and I need you to know that I was not joking. And maybe we can talk about that in a couple weeks, or maybe we're not going to talk about it ever. And I need you to very much understand that I'm not joking. So that's where I've been since the trade deadline. But I watched the AL wildcard game with a friend of mine who's a Yankees fan. And I know you can make fun of me all you want for that being a mistake, but he's a very nice guy. But what I learned in the process was that other fan bases don't really know what to do when they're losing in the playoffs.
Oh, we're emotionally prepared for that?
No, but logistically even. I was like, okay, so we changed seats now. And he was like, wait, what now? And I was like, no, you have things that you do when you're losing, no? And he's like, no.
Did they not make a ritual table?
He didn't make anything. He didn't have a routine for this. I'm like, buddy, you gotta start building your repertoire. There's gotta be jerseys, there's got to be candles, you got to change your shirt if it's not working. At the very least, you got to switch seats with me. What is going on here? Don't you know what to do for this? And he's like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about.
You did experience major parts of the World Series from a bathtub, correct?
So it was not even a bathtub. It was the floor of my shower, which was not running. It was not even as comfortable as a bathtub would have been. It was a shower stall, which I was sitting on the floor of.
So I feel like Nationals fans are emotionally prepared for crisis, maybe is what you were saying.
We know what to do. We know what steps to take. We know how to bring our teams back from the verge of crisis and end of season, or at least we damn well know how to try. And we have one season's worth to prove it actually worked, which is good enough for me.
And we know how to manage our own despair with creativity and distraction.
Yes, and sacrificing
as well.
And sacrificing rubber chickens.
Is this too crazy? No, it's not. Let's try something else.
Maybe you start a group chat on your phone called Sad Tyler Clipper Fan Club that turns into a podcast. Who knows? People process in different ways.
That turns into a book.
Some people go to therapy. Some people are sad about Tyler Clippard.
Some people go to therapy because they're sad about Tyler Clippard. And if that's been me, that's between me and my therapist.
We actually did get a question in the chat, though we are also getting a lot of insight into people's bagel orders. Zach and Eugenio's walk-up music. Oh, and there's about to be a cat fight in the background in my house, so that's fun.
Literal cat. Which ones?
Juniper and Godzilla. Don't name a cat Godzilla. Nominative determinism is a thing. She's little and gray and mean as yeah. So she's emotionally destroying us. She does not care for me is the issue.
Oh, I love her. She's still my phone background.
But yeah, so Zach and Eugenio's Waka music. Sorry, was that where we were? I got distracted by the hissing.
Yes, that was the question.
Okay. So I put together a playlist because I love a playlist for it. I actually don't have any music specifically cited in the book, in part because of trademark issues. Songs are actually like all song lyrics are trademarked. So it's a fun fact I learned. But also just because like it's sort of in the background, but it's a little bit less, I would say there are people who are hard of hearing who very much like music and listen to a lot of it. Zach is hard of hearing. He wears a hearing aid. He actually doesn't. So like the few times where you see him in the book, like listening to music or whatever, it's sort of like whatever's on the radio kind of deal. In part because in my head, he was diagnosed a little bit later in his childhood as being hard of hearing and sort of has some struggles to adjust, and there's some issues with that. But there are plenty of people who are hard of hearing who enjoy lots of music. So I want to be clear, this is one person's experience. So I do have the playlist. I will put that maybe I think I shared that with my newsletter list already, but I will also share that around. It has like a bunch of breakup songs on it because of who I am. It's basically, I'm just going to swear. Swearing is coming. If you have children, earmuffs. It's fucking in breakup music. That's what I like to listen to.
I do have thoughts about what Eugenio's Waka music would be.
I would love to hear them.
So I feel like earlier in his career, when he's like not quite out of his shell, like he would probably use something a little more generic, and like, you know, maybe even let the stadium DJ like pick it. He wouldn't really like feel strongly. But then later in the book, he like becomes a bigger personality, and I could see him using like Échame la culpa or like possibly even Calma. I'm not just saying that because I love the song. I actually think it would be pretty fun if he used it. And I think I could see it like with the personality that kind of blossoms later in the book. I think that would be very him, and I would really enjoy it.
So I would be happy to take suggestions. So yeah, as Laura said, sort of his arc in the book is he is like a little bit more in his shell in the first part of the book. And then he kind of has this like F all of this, I'm just going to be who I am kind of moment. That's tied up with his relationship with Zach, but like also part of his arc of like just being like, I'm awesome, let's go. And so I think that is also a point where in the book he actually really reconnects with like being a lot more sort of open and proud about being his family being Venezuelan and stuff like that. So I am happy to take some suggestions in that regard. I will admit I did not do a lot of research to that end. I am going to open up the playlist because I feel like I have a bunch of stuff on there that I just can't think of, and hopefully it doesn't start playing.
I mean, maybe I'm projecting because I listen to too much Fonzie, but like,
I will accept that as a suggestion. Absolutely. Maybe I'll add it to the playlist. Because I think it's important to have Waka music. I have other playlists for other books / couples that have Waka music on it, including somebody from New Jersey who walks up to I'm on fire because legally you have to if you're from New Jersey. But yeah, let me pull up this playlist and see what's on here. I think the most walk-upable music I have on here, because again, this is really breakup songs and sex music, is do you all know Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings at all? No. Okay, there's a song called Let Them Knock that I think would make really good Waka music.
I've listened to your playlist, so if it's on it, I've heard it.
But like that one is like, I think the most kind of upbeat. Not that the cover of Joan Baez's cover of Don't Think Twice, It's All Right isn't very upbeat. Thank you for laughing at me. I laughed.
I've listened to Joan Baez covering Dylan many, many times in my life, but it's not perhaps what I would walk up to the plate to.
Yeah, and we're getting a couple of folks mentioning their walk-up music. So asking friends or coworkers, favorite answer was both by Todrick Hall. I actually have determined what my personal walk-up music is, if you all have made that determination for yourselves. Yeah, okay. Laura's nodding vigorously. Laura, you want to share first, or we want me to do
Baba O'Reilly. Definitely Baba O'Reilly. Always Baba O'Reilly.
I like that you're like immediate. Yes.
I have thought about this a few times.
Bullpen by Dessa is, yeah. That feels like really good walk-up music. Kay, you don't have it like?
Well, I do, except the thing is, it's not something that would ever be possible as walk-up music, because it is the orchestral score of a video game song.
Why in the hell not? Jason Worth used the Game of Thrones theme.
That's true, but it's slightly more obscure.
So what? It's your walk-up music. Which video game?
From Ocarina of Time. Now I've completely forgotten. I can sing it, but I can't tell you the name of it.
All right, let's hear it. What would be resting pitch phase if we did not have improvised singing?
No.
Not even by me for once. Come on.
No.
Oh, you know what Kay would walk up to, Laura? Backstreet's Back.
All right.
A long-running joke is that Kay is very, very annoyed by that song, and we are very enthusiastic about that song.
Hey, I gotta ask, and then I gotta ask, and then I want to make sure you plug everything you want to plug. But before we do that, have we ever shown our faces like this before, or is this like a milestone to mark?
This is we posted pictures on our Twitter, but we've never done a recording where we've actually used the video. So, sort of a face reveal. To the two people who haven't hung out with us at a baseball game.
I know, really. We know you're out there somewhere.
Hi, this is what we look like and sound like.
This is what going to a ball game with us is pretty much like. No one's mentioned koalas with face chlamydia just yet, but well, I just did, so there we are.
It had to get a reference, but
that's resting pitch face bingo at this point. Like, we mentioned Tyler Clippard, we mentioned koalas with face chlamydia.
Oh, we haven't had a Zach Duke update.
Haven't. He is still mutuals with me on Twitter, and I don't know why.
And there's your Zach Duke update.
That's my Zach Duke. Zach Duke, buy my book.
Somebody's wife is like a big fan of yours, isn't she?
So Jim Tomey's wife and I share an agent.
And she's been very positive about you online, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, we're mutuals on Twitter. But yes, so that I did ask her, and this was like on public Twitter, so I don't feel weird about mentioning it. I was like, what do batting helmets smell like? Because that's the level of like verisimilitude I go for. The answer is nasty. And I'm like, oh, I could see that, yeah.
Gym class, you never wore a batting helmet in gym class?
She doesn't do shared hats.
I don't do shared hats.
Some of us didn't have a choice in like elementary school.
I don't remember just like sticking my face and be like,
No, you didn't have to stick your face in it. You put it on and you just like were inundated.
It had like a batting helmet smell.
Yes, it was sweat and rubber.
So like what it came up with this kind of like what inspired me to ask this was like rosin, which pitchers put on their hands, smells like licorice. Okay. And that kind of was like, I was like, I wonder what this smells like. And the answer is pitch rosin smells like licorice-y. And so I was like, I wonder what a batting helmet smells like. And the answer was real nasty. And I'm like, I think we're gonna put that in the romance novel equivalent of like, they're not doing any chewing tobacco and the batting helmets smell fantastic. Like no one's dipping, batting helmets.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hockey pads. Yeah, Jen mentioned hockey pads in the chat. Yeah, that is what I think hockey romance writers have to really like work around, is when like hockey players do like the face wash with the glove to each other. That's an insult because those smell like really bad. Like imagine every sweat sock you've ever had, but it fermented.
I don't even like it when my food is fermented.
I know you don't like vinegar. But like imagine like fermented sweat sock is what hockey gear smells like. But like romance logic says that it all smells great. So like romance logic says that batting helmets smell fantastic and nobody has a big wada chew.
You don't want too much for verisimilitude.
Yeah, the spitting is just one of those things where you're like, there's a lot of spitting. So I will not make the joke I was about to make. So.
All right.
I like how
on that note,
like I'm choosing not to acknowledge that you just said that. All right. On that note, would it be an episode of Wretched and Pitchface if we didn't go 25 minutes over time?
Definitely not.
Yeah. But yeah. Go ahead, please.
Oh, okay. So we want to do this spiel. So first of all, everyone in the chat, thank you for coming and hanging out with us. We miss you. We're really excited that everyone's here and asking good questions and having a good time. And yes, Fermented Sweat Sock is my new indie grunge band name. Yes. Smell shouldn't have a taste.
Ugh.
Taste can have a smell, but smell shouldn't have a taste. On that note, you can find me as an author on every social media platform at KDKC Writes. So I'm mostly active on Twitter and Instagram with occasional forays into Facebook. And then my website is kdkcwrites.com. As Laura said, if you sign up for my newsletter, you get a 8,000 word story for free, and you get to know some news in the next couple of days that is pretty exciting, that you will be excited to get. And will also be at least temporarily free. So if you are not signed up, please sign up. Unwritten Rules is available today from Carina Press. And I think it's a pretty good time. So I hope that folks check it out. And you know, if you like it, let me know if you liked it. That's where I'll leave that one. If you like it, definitely let me know. If you didn't, peace be upon you. But yeah, it's really exciting. I just had a blast for a book birthday. I personally have forgotten my own like birthday multiple times. And so this was like honestly the best birthday ever, because I am not a huge birthday person, but I am apparently a book birthday person. So I'm gonna go and eat some more babka and drink some champagne that Kay was generous enough to send, and kind of wrap it up. Was there anything either of you wanted to say before we take it out?
Did you get my card? Did you find my card? Was it in the mailbox?
I have not yet been to the mailbox today. I'm sorry, but I will go do that. I will go do that now. It's super far.
I mean, if you don't want to, it can just prolong your book birthday. So you can open it another day and then it'll still be your book birthday.
That is very true. Did we want to do the outro with a verse of "Please Come Back, Tyler"?
I mean, I'm always happy to sing "Please Come Back, Tyler." The question is, which verse do you want? Do you want the opening? Do you want a chorus?
I think the opening, if folks are up for that. We are going to experiment with this. This may not work at all, but I am going to be on YouTube sharing a YouTube clip from another YouTube thing, if that works. But before I do that, I just want to say thank you to everybody. Oh, man.
We're screen sharing. Oh, I'm frozen. Sydney, I can't hear you.
I don't think it works.
Oh, now I can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And I can hear you. Okay. But before we do a quick outro and a beautiful rendition of the classic song, Please Come Back, Tyler, which is a love letter to Tyler Clippard, because why wouldn't you have one of those? I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who came on and chatted and said hi and said stuff for book birthday. I'm just like thrilled, over the moon, ecstatic, just beyond all words and measure to be able to express that. And I'm really, really, really grateful for that and for the reception the book has gotten. This felt like it kind of came like out of my chest, but not like a thing from Alien, like a good thing. And so I'm really happy that it's resonated with some folks as well. That really makes me like all in the feels. So once again, thank you. And if you all are good with it, I'm gonna hit play and we'll go out from there.
I haven't watched this video in a really long time.
All right, let's see if this works. If the sound is broken, I apologize, and we'll just link to it. Sound good?
No,
No, it's very slow.
I can't hear anything.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna link to it.
And Laura, do you want to just sing us out?
Shall I? We ready?
Yes, I am emotionally prepared.
Please come back, Tyler. It's just not the same since you went away. We really miss your eyewear and the way you confuse batters at the plate. There's a seat for you right next to Drew, and we need you to pitch the eighth. Besides, there's no other team uses chocolate sauce to celebrate. Straight from the summer of 2015. We love you, Sydney. We're so proud of you. We're so excited. And we're really happy we got to share this with you today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. All right. All right. Everyone have a good night.
How do you stop the stream?
I have no idea. I'm just gonna hit end. I was like, I don't know. I'm not good at this. Hi, if we're all still here, none of us knows how technology works.
Do you have the little drop down live on YouTube? Is there a button to stop the stream?
Yeah, there is. Thank you. All right.
I only have view or copy.
All right, I'm hitting stop live stream.